John Kelly will be leaving his post as White House Chief of Staff come the end of the year. The combat veteran Marine will reportedly step down to undergo treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder and will announce his departure as soon as he can stop stuttering uncontrollably. Vice presidential aide Nick Ayers was offered the job of replacing Kelly. Ayers said he was honored by the offer, but unfortunately couldn't accept it because he'll be busy washing his hair for the next 2 years. Other possible replacements include Budget Director Mick Mulvaney, who could not be dragged out from under his living room sofa for comment, but instead shouted at reporters from under the sofa in a fake Chinese accent, saying, quote, "Mick Mulvaney, he no here. He go far, far away. I know nowhere to find him. No one know. He far away," unquote. GOP operative Wayne Berman was also asked if he would be willing to take the job. Berman responded, quote, "It would be a great honor to step in and bring a measure of order and discipline to the Trump White House. No, I'm kidding. I'd rather be impaled on a flaming pole and left to die in the hot sun," unquote. Another candidate for the post is David Bossie. As head of Citizens United, Bossie was responsible for the anti-Hillary Clinton documentary that drove Hillary so crazy she swore to erase every word of the First Amendment one by one before she ever allowed such a film to be made again. Bossie could not be reached for comment and was last seen in Chappaqua, New York, pounding on Hillary's front door, begging to be let in because it was the last place anyone would think to look for him. Other names on the Chief of Staff shortlist include the gigantic white gorilla from that Dwayne Johnson movie and the hitman played by Jason Statham in Mechanic Resurrection. Both declined the job, saying they wouldn't be able to stand the stress. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shape, tipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
All right, it is Mailbag Day, so all you're like 25 minutes away from your problems being utterly solved, and all my answers, you can ask anything you want, and all my answers will be correct. I'm going to try and get to the oh my God. Another trucker just ran off the road. That's on you, Austin. Like that pile up on the 101 that just took place. Thank you to the Silicon Valley Liberty Forum. They had me out there yesterday up in near San Francisco. Great reception. I gave a speech. They were so nice. It was the second Christmas in a row they had me there. And I got to tell you, I got back really late. I'm just a little bit exhausted. So, but we will try and I want to get to the mailbag early today if I can. A lot of really morally complex questions, and I want to actually give them some time. Also, we have the Lefties Dictionary. We have the new, finally, we got a little held up. Guys got so busy they weren't able to put out the new one, but we've got L is for Lady Parts, which is one of my favorites. And, of course, we have to talk about Stamps.com because Christmas is a-coming, as the old song says, and that means there's a lot of stuff you need the post office for, but you don't want to go to the post office. The post office has all those great services, but you want to get them right out of your computer. You know, you can send email, do a lot with email, but you can't send packages. It's very hard to stuff those packages into the computer. You got to get some stamps. Stamps.com helps you save time in the holiday season. It brings all the services of U.S. Post Office right to your desktop. You can buy and print official U.S. postage for any letter, any package, any class of mail using your own computer and printer. Then the mail carrier picks it up. No trips to the post office required. It couldn't be easier. It really is a joy. It's a joy to have it because I love the post office. I love what they do. But like everybody else, I don't have time to go anywhere, so I just do it out of my computer. And right now, you too can enjoy the Stamps.com service with a special offer that includes a 4-week trial, plus postage and a digital scale without long-term commitment. Go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in Klavan. That's Stamps.com. Enter Klavan, and you can send off your first letter saying, how do you spell Klavan? It's Klavan. Somebody screamed that to me as I was giving my speech. How do you spell your name? So we had him escorted out, and then he hasn't been seen since. I don't know. So we're going to talk a little bit about that dust-up in the with Trump and Nancy and Chuck, as we call them, Chuck and Nancy. Sounds like an old rock and roll song, Chuck and Nancy, they loved each other. But they had that dust-up over the wall. But first, before we talk about that, I want to talk in a more general sense. about what the media has done to politics in this country. You know, as I told you recently, I was rereading the Federalist Papers. And one of the things that I was really struck by is the founders, these are the papers obviously that were written to sell the Constitution to the public, and the founders just foresaw everything because they knew so much about human nature. They knew where the corruption would come in, they knew where the arguments would be, they were just amazing. But one thing they did not foresee is they did not foresee the invention of television. I was thinking this as I was watching it, television, and now of course social media and the internet and all those things. Because they assumed that our loyalties would remain close to our localities, close to the state. They didn't count on the effect on the imagination that television was going to have in bringing us all together and making the president the center of our national idea instead of our state, instead of the governor, instead of worried what's happening in our schools and in our towns and in our states and defending our state's right to make decisions. We're now so focused. I mean, we wake up and go to sleep when we're thinking about politics, thinking about the president of the United States. And that's only one thing that happened. You know, one of the great turning points in American politics was when in 1960, Richard Nixon debated John F. Kennedy, and it was a turning point toward the left. It was a turning point away from reason and toward emotion. I just want to play just a little part of this, and there is such a huge difference. Here's what you have to know. The people who listened to this debate on the radio were absolutely certain that Richard Nixon had won the debate. Okay, the people who watched on TV were absolutely certain that Kennedy won the debate. So if you're watching, watch. If you're listening, listen, and you'll see exactly why.
In the election of 1860, Abraham Lincoln said the question was whether this nation could exist half slave or half free. In the election of 1960, and with the world around us, the question is whether the world will exist half slave.
Now, this is not standing still. But, good as this record is, may I emphasize, it isn't enough. A record is never something to stand on. It's something to build on. And in building on this record, I believe that we have the secret for progress. We know the way to progress. And I think, first of all, our own record proves that we know the way. Senator Kennedy has suggested that he believes he knows the way. I respect the sincerity with which he makes that suggestion. But on the other hand, when we look at the various programs that he offers, they do not seem to be new. They seem to be simply retreads of the programs of the Truman administration which preceded it.
So if you close your eyes and you eliminate the fact that Kennedy's voice is now iconic, people have imitated it so much that it sort of has a kind of authority it wouldn't otherwise have, they both sound perfectly rational, perfectly political, perfectly stately and statesman-like. But when you're watching it, you see that one of them is a very handsome guy. JFK was a handsome, younger guy. He had a wonderful presence. He had a wonderful way of standing. Nixon has sweat under his lip. He's a dark figure with the dark eyebrows and all this. And so if you're judging by images, it's clear that Kennedy wins. If you're just listening to their voices, they're two people who are on equal footing, and all you'd be measuring them by was their ideas. A society that lives by images is a stupid society, a shallow society. In the Middle Ages, the world was divided between people who were literate, the elites, and most of the people were illiterate, and that's why there were such beautiful pictures and so many pictures in churches. It was the gospel of the illiterate. It was things that people could look at to get the stories. People who live by images live a shallow and emotional life. People who live by words live a life that could be, at least, governed by thought and reason. So obviously we know that I think this is a cliche, but I think it's also true that leftism is an emotional appeal. It's an appeal to the emotions, whereas the right-wingers sometimes are too reasonable and too logic-based, but they are more reasonable and logic-based, so they're going to be more involved with words. The minute things became televised, the left took a distinct advantage. The minute things became about images. But television and the media has also done something else. It's also emphasized extreme ideas. Why? Because It is much more fun to turn on TV and hear one guy yelling that MS-13 is invading your country to rape your children and the other guy yelling racist, racist, racist than it is to hear two people saying, well, look, obviously we've got to restore the borders. We've got to secure the borders. How do we go about doing that? What's your policy and why? And here's mine, okay? It is simply better clickbait to have people talking about extremes. When you have somebody come on and say men and women are the same, there's no difference between men and women, and you think there is, you're sexist. That makes you outraged. You're going to watch something that makes you outraged. You're not going to watch if people start to talk about in rational terms the scientific information which increasingly shows that there are deep and abiding differences between men and women, and here is what they are. But of course, even though there are deep abiding differences between two classes of people, they may not affect you as an individual. All that stuff is nuanced and shaded, and it just doesn't work on television. Television imagery is stupid. It is shallow. It's affecting and it is moving, but it gets to your heart very easily. The images go right to your heart. Words have to work their way there through your mind. And that is the change that the media has wrought. We are living in a society where we are being taught to be illiterate and to judge things on the way they look. But one thing that you can't judge on the way it looks is Robinhood, because Robinhood is actually good stuff. It's an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptos, all commission free. Other brokerages charge up to $10 for every trade, but Robinhood doesn't charge commission fees, trade stocks, and you can keep all of your profits. But the best thing, the thing I really like about Robinhood is that it teaches you how to do this. I'm not very good at this stuff. I've never been able to read the papers. But when you use Robinhood, they have easy to understand charts and market data. You can place a trade in just 4 taps on your smartphone. And Robinhood web platform also lets you view stock collections like the 100 most popular or ones with female CEOs, so you know to stay away from those. Just joking, just joking. But Robinhood will teach you how to invest. Robinhood is giving listeners a free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help build your portfolio. You can sign up at klavan.robinhood.com. That's klavan.robinhood.com. And I know what you're thinking. How do you spell Robinhood? You can spell Robinhood, but how do you spell Klavan? How do you spell it? It's Klavan, no E's in Klavan. I just make it look easy. That's it. Let's take a look. Trump has Pelosi and Schumer, Chuck and Nancy, in his office to talk about the wall. And it starts off with Trump just talking about how there's already been progress on the wall. And this is pretty funny because it drove the left insane. They started doing their fact-checking thing. As we all know, fact-checking is lefties for lying. So they basically said, well, let's hear what Donald Trump said. Let's play the first cut.
A lot of the wall is built. It's been very effective. I asked for a couple of notes on that. If you look at San Diego, illegal traffic dropped 92% once the wall was up. El Paso, illegal traffic dropped 72%, then ultimately 95% once the wall was up. In Tucson, Arizona, illegal traffic dropped 92%. Yuma, it dropped illegal traffic 95 to 96%. I mean, and that when I say dropped, the only reason we even have any percentage where people got through is because they walk and go around areas that aren't built. It dropped virtually 100% in the areas where the wall is. So, I mean, it's very effective.
So that's really convincing. And of course, he mentions Israel, where they built a wall and it really did cut down on terrorist activity. And so, of course, the press, the left, went out to say, oh, fact check, there's no wall, he's never built anything. It's a half truth. What is true is that there's always been funding for restoring fences and restoring the fencing that's already been there. And so he is counting restored fences as part of the wall. Some of the restored fences actually have. This was put up as part of Donald Trump's wall on them, signs on them. So he's actually making a good point. Trump and Pelosi realizing that they look bad. I mean, here's the thing about this. Most people want the border to be secure. It is only the government that can't get its act in order, right? I think a lot of people, again, one of the things that the media does to us is it convinces us that absolutism is a political strategy. It's not. In politics, you always have to compromise. There are going to be compromises in any kind of border package. And so the far right, or even the right, is going to be angry. The left is going to be angry. People are going to pound their fists on their palm and say, oh, they've sold us out. That's how politics works. There's got to be compromise. So Trump actually sounded a bipartisan note talking about the criminal reform bill that's been going forward in a bipartisan way, but it quickly devolves into a fight, a positioning fight. And Pelosi is no slouch at this. She knows what she's doing, even though she's kind of a goofball at this point. She's gotten kind of old and flippy, but she still knows what she's doing. Listen to what she does here in Cut 2.
I think the American people recognize that we must keep government open, that a shutdown is not worth anything, and that you should not have a Trump shutdown. You have the White House,
did you say Trump
shutdown. You have the White House, you have the Senate, you have the House of Representatives, you have the votes. You should pass it.
No, we
right
don't have
now.
the votes, Nancy, because in the Senate we need 60 votes.
No, but in the House,
and we don't
you
have.
could bring it up right now.
Yeah, but I
today.
can't. Excuse me. But I can't get it passed in the House if it's not going to pass in the Senate. I don't want to waste time.
Well, the fact is, you can get it started that way.
The House we could get passed very easily,
Okay,
and we
then
do.
do it. Then
But
do
the
it.
problem is the Senate, because we need 10 Democrats to vote,
No,
and
no, that's
they
not
won't
the
vote.
point. There are no votes in the House, a majority of votes, for a wall, no matter where you start.
Exactly right. You don't have
If I needed the votes for the wall in the House, I would have them in one session.
Well, then
would
go
be
do it.
done.
Go do it.
It doesn't help because we need 10 Democrats in
No,
the
don't
Senate.
put it on the Senate. Put it on the negotiation.
Okay, let me ask you this, and we're doing this in a very friendly manner. It doesn't help for me to take a vote in the House where I will win easily with the Republicans.
You will not win.
It doesn't help to take that vote because I'm not going to get the vote
Don't put
of
it
the
on
Senate. I need
Mr.
10
President.
senators. That's
Mr.
the problem.
President.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think they should play that after all this debate. So, yeah, you had to admire, first of all, the guy who represented America, and if you were watching the images, of course, is Mensch, Mike Pence, the vice president, who looks like, please get me out of here, I'm dying. It's like, he just has this look on his face, like, I'm now a dead person, so please, God, take me away from... I thought the rapture was going to hit Pence because he was just like the hollow-eyed boredom on his face. But it actually is entertaining to watch them screaming at each other. What are they screaming at each other? Well, first, Pelosi, I love this, the way Pelosi said it. He's talking about shutting down the government if he doesn't get funding for the wall. And Pelosi said, well, we don't want a Trump shutdown. And so Trump immediately gets that. I mean, Nancy Pelosi knows just what she's doing. She's positioning Trump to be the guy who shuts down the government. And Trump says, oh, did you say a Trump shutdown? He heard it right away. They're both playing to the camera. Are either of them looking to get it to enhance border security? I mean, look, I think Trump would enhance border security, but they've had bills being debated in the House for a long time that would have given him a lot more money. Now they're talking about $5 billion for the wall. If there's a shutdown, they're going to compromise even on that. It's not enough. And before, there was more money in another package, but they can't settle. They can't compromise. They can't do anything. And there's not a lot of motivation for them to do it because it's a good issue for them both. They can both play to their base for this. So what you are watching is pure TV. You are not watching people trying to solve this. It was entertaining. The part with Schumer was even hilarious because Schumer is not very good at this. I mean, Pelosi is a real snake, so she's pretty good at it, but Schumer's not so much. Let's take a look at him.
The Washington Post today gave you a whole lot of Pinocchios because they say you constantly misstate how much the wall is built, how much of the wall is built, and how much is there. But that's not the point here. We have a disagreement about the wall,
Washington
whether
Post.
it's effective or not. Not on border security, but on the wall. We do not want to shut down the government. You have called 20 times to shut down the government. You say, I want to shut down the government. We don't. We want to come to an agreement. If we can't come to an agreement, we have solutions that will pass the House and Senate right now and will not shut down the government, and that's what we're urging you to do. Not threaten to shut down the government because
you don't
you,
wanna
let me
shut
just
down the
finish,
government,
because
Chuck.
you can't get
The
your
last
way.
time you shut it down, you got
let
killed.
me say something, Mr. President. You just say my way or we'll shut down the government. We have a proposal that Democrats and Republicans will support to do a CR that will not shut down the government. We urge you to take it.
And if it's not good border security, I
It
won't
is
take
very
it.
good border
And if it's
security.
not good border security, I won't take it.
You're a mean, mad white man.
So Schumer is genuinely ticked off because Trump is saying it's the Senate that's holding things up. But finally, they just want to bail. I mean, at this point, they just want to bail. Let's play the last cut because that's where it all devolves into fun.
When you look at these numbers of the effectiveness of our border security, and when you look at the job that we're doing
You
with our
just
military,
said it is effective.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, you just said it's
Without
effective.
a wall, these are only areas where you have the walls.
We want to do
where
this.
you have walls, Chuck, it's effective.
We-
Where you don't have
Wait a
walls,
sec.
it
Let's
is not
call a halt
effective.
to this.
Yeah.
Let's call a halt to this. We've come in here as the first branch of government. Article 1, the legislative branch. We're coming in good faith to negotiate with you about how we can keep the government
Open.
We're going to keep it open if we have border security. If we don't have border security,
I'm
Chuck,
with you.
we're not going to keep it
I'm
open.
with you. We are going to have border security.
And it's the same board.
Especially-
You're bragging about what has been done.
By us.
We want to do the same thing we did last year, this year. That's our proposal. If it's good then, it's good now, and it won't shut down the government.
Chuck, we can build a
But that's
much
it.
bigger
Let's
section with
debate.
more money.
Let's debate in private.
He's bailing out. He is bailing. Are you not entertained? He is bailing out because he knows that this was all about positioning for a shutdown, a possible shutdown of the government. What kind of argument is our offer is to do what we did before? Nobody's happy with what's happening now. We've got a caravans invading the country, running over the border, children getting separated when people get arrested. That's what Chuck Schumer is offering. So who won? You know, you walk out of this thing, and of course, the left, Dumb and Dumber over on CNN, Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo are saying, "Oh, Nancy Pelosi, she's so wonderful," and then, that's what you expect from the left. And on the right, everybody's saying, "Oh, Trump crushed them." I think the giveaway was this. I heard that Trump was angry. I don't know how good the sources are on that, but Pelosi said, according to the Daily News, Pelosi said of Trump, it's like a manhood thing for him, as if manhood could ever be associated with him. I was trying to be the mom. I can't explain it to you. It was so wild. It goes to show you, you get into a tinkle contest with a skunk, you get tinkle all over you. That to me is a loser statement. That to me, when you go for somebody's manhood, I mean, what if Trump had come out and said, "Oh, that screaming hysterical woman, Pelosi, it's a hysterical woman thing. Not that I want to associate Pelosi with being a woman." What if he had said that? I mean, obviously you would have thought Trump was being disgusting. Pelosi was being disgusting. That's a sign that she lost the argument. The problem is though, it was all TV. It was all TV. Did that bring us any closer to getting this kind of security we need? I don't think so. Trump is good at this. He's better at this than they are. But what is it? What is he better at? Is he better at moving Congress toward getting this deal, getting the kinds of things he wants? And I don't know. He's been telling us this for a long time, that he's going to get a wall. He promised the wall. I don't see it happening. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens here. If the government becomes pure TV, nobody gets anything. Hey, I want to get to the mailbag, but I got to play the latest Lefties Dictionary. This is L is for lady parts. L is for lady parts. Lady parts are those parts of a woman that make her a lady. Her grace, courtesy, tenderness, and compassion. No, I'm joking. It's her vagina. In Lefties, lady parts means vagina because left-wing feminists have courageously risen up as one to fight back against the male notion that a woman is nothing but her body by defining a woman as nothing but her body. These feminists stage yearly readings of the play The Vagina Monologues. They wear pink hats meant to represent their vaginas, and they stage protests where they demand that the government stay out of their vaginas, though there's no sign that the government or anyone else wants to go anywhere near them. All this blunt talk about lady parts is designed to show arrogant, belligerent male louts who are obsessed with their own sexual equipment that women can be just as arrogant, belligerent, and loutish and sexually obsessed as they are. So hooray. This triumph of feminism over male supremacy in the field of loutishness can now be celebrated along with other feminist triumphs. For instance, it is feminists who defied the stereotype of women as over-emotional by shrieking and carrying on about every little thing. Likewise, it's feminists who defy the stereotype of women being weak by constantly claiming they're traumatized by male behavior. And it's feminists who overturn the stereotype of women as dependent by demanding that the government pay for and take care of everything from their birth control to their children. Finally, by endlessly nattering on about their lady parts, feminists have at last succeeded in striking a blow against male desire by rendering lady parts boring. Although this only applies to feminist lady parts that are attached to actual ladies remain deeply intriguing. All of this illustrates an important general principle of understanding lefties. Leftists fight back against those they deem oppressors by adopting the values of those oppressors. If sexist men are nasty, feminists strike back by saying women should be nasty too. If sexist men think women are irrational, feminists defend irrationality as a female trait. If sexist men treat women like meat, leftists tell women to treat themselves like meat. This technique works great if you want to be a nasty, irrational piece of meat. Or you could redefine lady parts as the grace, courtesy, tenderness, and compassion that turn women into ladies. But then you'd no longer be speaking leftese. L is for lady parts. I'm Andrew Klavan with the Lefties Dictionary. That's one of my favorites. Don't forget that the book of the Lefties Dictionary is available on Amazon. You can buy it. Makes a great Christmas present. It has all the text of the videos and a lot more. It has a lot of bonus content in there as well, and it's beautifully illustrated by Rebecca Shapiro. Really great stuff. Take a look on Amazon for the Lefties Dictionary. I just want to compare this, by the way, to what's happening to comedy on the left. There was a wonderful story that a comedian in England refused to perform at a charity event after he was sent a contract listing topics about which he could not joke. There's a guy named Konstantin Kaizen, the Jewish Comedian of the Year. He was sent a form that said, by signing this contract, you are agreeing to our no tolerance policy with regards to racism, sexism, classism, ageism, homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, xenophobia, Islamophobia, or anti-religion or anti-atheism. And the student leaders, this was at the London University, student leaders said the ban was necessary to preserve the event as a safe space and a place for joy, love, and acceptance. I can just imagine the joy and hilarity that's going to come from leftist comedy. In fact, before I break for the mailbag, I just have to play Hannah Gadsby. Hannah Gadsby is the woman who declared that her comedy was no longer going to be funny, and she proved it. This is a comedian at the Hollywood Reporter's annual Women in Entertainment event. This is Hannah Gadsby's comedy routine.
My issue is that when good men talk about bad men, they always ignore the line in the sand. The line in the sand that is inevitably drawn whenever a good man talks about bad men. I am a good man. Here is the line. There are all the bad men. The Jimmies and the good men won't talk about this line, but we really need to talk about this line. Let's call it Kevin. And let's never call it that again. We need to talk about how men will draw a different line for every different occasion. They have a line for the locker room, a line for when their wives, mothers, daughters, and sisters are watching. Another line for when they're drunk and fratting. Another line for non-disclosure, a line for friends, and a line for foes. You know why we need to talk about this line between good men and bad men? Because it's only good men who get to draw that line. And guess what? All men believe they are good.
Can't you save us, Britney Spears? Can we be saved?
That is a perfect description, a perfect depiction of comedy on the left. An angry, nasty, weirdly gendered human spouting off hate. And it's like, ha, 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 good job. Here's an Emmy, and everybody loves you, but nobody wants to see that ever again. That's what leftism does to you. That's what it turns you into. Hold on to your lady parts. Here we go into the mailbag. We got to say goodbye to Facebook. Another car has gone into the wall. We have to say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube. Come to the Daily Wire. Come to dailywire.com. There is no the. It's dailywire.com. Subscribe. You can watch the whole show right there. You can ask questions in the mailbag. You can get Another Kingdom. The last episode is up for subscribers. You got to wait till Friday if you're not a subscriber to find what happens. to Austin Lively in Another Kingdom, the conclusion of that show. You get so much for just a lousy $10 a month or $100 for the year. And for $100, you get this Leftist Tears tumbler, which is actually made of pure gold. That's why it costs $100. Now, that's not true. I'm lying. But the point is, give us your money. That's the point. All right, the mailbag coming right up.